Okay, so if we look at this triangle, if I wanted to find the length of this side over here, in my current toolkit, I can't use SOHCAHTOA because it is not right angled. I can't use the sine rule because I don't have pairs of matching as basically, if I try to go BC divided by the sine of 55, and then I go 20 divided by, I don't have another angle. I don't have a pair of matching angles and sides to help me. And so this is why we need a new tool called the cos rule. And the cos rule looks a little bit like Pythagoras, and it's got an extra bit added on, but it's not Pythagoras. It just looks a bit like it. So to show you how to write out the cos rule, I'm going to call this side over here A. And A is just opposite big A, the vertex A. So the cos rule says the following. It says, it turns out that A squared is equal to, okay, 23 squared plus 20 squared minus 2, and I'm going to leave 2 spaces here, the cos of some particular angle. And so this first bit looks a lot like Pythagoras. Basically, I said I have a missing side, and then I went the other side squared, and then the other side squared, and I added them together. Now, the thing about the cos rule is the cos rule is very useful in a particular situation when you have 2 sides and the included angle between those 2 sides. So in this situation, I have a length of one side, I have the length of another side, and I also have the size of the angle between those 2. So it's perfectly suited to being used for the cos rule. Oh, my colors just changed. There we go. So I have 2 sides at an included angle. I want to find the third side. I write out the first part that looks a bit like Pythagoras, and then I have the second part. In the second part, all I'm doing is I go minus 2 times the length of the one side I know times the length of the other side that I know. So it's basically those 2 times the cos of the angle in between those 2 sides, which is 55. So as we start today and we get used to this new tool called the cos rule, the cos rule is very helpful in the situation where you have 2 sides and the included angle. And today we're learning how to find that third side. Now, what I want is I want you to, in the chat, I want you to work out what is a squared going to be. And you're going to get a number that you get from basically typing the above bit into your calculator. And I want to see what you guys get for this bit over here. So over to you. Let's see what the class has to say. So I'm looking for the a squared value. And so what I'm punching into my calculator is 23 squared plus 20 squared minus 2 times 23 times 28 times the cos of 55. And I'm getting something a bit different here. Let's see if I made a mistake here. Degrees. So 23 squared plus 20 squared minus 2 times 23 times 20. Oh, times 20. That's what I did wrong. Times 20 times the cos of 55. And you should be getting 401.309 ... and so on. Now, In order to get what the value of a is, I need to square root both sides. But what I would suggest, everyone, is I would simply use, so if you're going to square root both sides, you're going to get a is equal to the square root of the number above. But instead of using this number above, just use the answer key in your calculator. So when you typed 401, when you did this whole calculation, you pressed equals, it automatically got saved in your calculator's answer memory. And so you can just type square root answer to get the value of a. And so that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to go square root answer, and we should be getting 20.03. So 20.03, and that is going to be centimeters. So this is an example. What does that actually mean? It means that this a value over here is going to be 20.03 centimeters. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you broadly understood what I did there. You don't have to be perfectly comfortable, but you kind of followed. Give a thumbs down if you feel very unsure and you need me to go through another example very slowly again. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the second example. Okay. There's a mix. Okay. So what are the important things we need to remember? First of all, we're finding a side. And so we start by writing that side down, but we started with a squared. And then we have to remember the first bit is 2 sides squared. And then probably the newest bit is this -2 times the one side times the other times the cos of the angle in between those two. Oh, no, that's a little bit not the right color. But I think the part that we need to focus on for the next example is just that bit over there. And remember it. Okay, take a screenshot if you need to, and then we're going to do example number 2. So let's do this one over here. I want you guys to work. I want you to start by writing down, write down x squared equals. And I want you to write out that in terms of this new thing called the cos rule. Now, I'll point out that you've got 2 sides and you've got an included angle. So this is perfectly suitable to being used by the cos rule. Non-to-causal, we are doing the cos rule. And so the first step of doing the cos rule is just writing out the statement of the cos rule. So I want everyone to try and do that now. And then once you've done that, I want you then try and find what x is. Now, x is the unknown side. In fact, I would love, you know what? I would love to hear a student voice. Who would like to tell me what to write in this next block? Just pop your hand up and then you can help us all out. And yeah, you can share some of your knowledge with us. Otherwise, in about 30 seconds, I will write up what I would have written, but I would love to hear someone out there. Aha, Anele. Hey, Anele, let's go to you and unmute. What do you think it's going to say, Anele?
Good.
Hello? Can you hear me, Anele?
You.
Hey, what do you think is going to happen in the rest of this?
I think it's going to be 17 squared plus 28 squared minus 2 in brackets 17 and then times 28 and then cos of 114.
Exactly. That's exactly what I had written. Thank you very much, Anele. And have you got your final answer yet? For x?
No, so I'm still working it out.
Okay, keep going. I'll give you a bit more time, but that was fantastic. Thank you so much. So pop your answers in the chat, everyone. let's see how it's going here. So for my x squared, I get 1460.21, and then I'm going to go square root, hit the answer key, and I get 38.21, and this would be units. So basically what that's saying is this length of the side x is 38.21, and that's that length. Okay, so guys, if there are any questions, you can raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm going to move on. I just want to actually make sure you understand the general form of this. So let me draw a triangle like this. A, B, C. We'll call this A, call this B, call this C. Okay. I want to see if you can write down the cos rule in its kind of general format. So maybe mute all. There we go, mute all. Okay, so I'm going to pick a side from this triangle, and I'm going to ask you to complete the rest of it using the cos rule. So I'm going to write down b squared. Now, b squared would be focusing on this side over here. Can you write down the rest of the statement of the cos rule if you start with b squared? I want everyone to give that a go, because when you look on your formula sheet, students often see like b squared, bc, cos a, and it causes chaos. And I just want to take a moment to see, okay, we've done two examples. What do you think the cos rule says if I wrote b squared on the one side? What do you think the rest of the statement of the cos rule is going to say? And if you feel like you can help me with that, I would love you to raise your hand and just, yeah. And this is a bit trickier now because it's all variables. But I would, even if you get it wrong, it'll be so helpful for all of us to see someone have a go at this. Okay, Nontokozo, let's do it. Can you hear me, Nontokozo? Okay. What do you think is going to come first?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can sort of hear you. I think you said...
Hello.
Hey, Nontokozo, can you hear me?
Hello.
Okay, I think it's the lines.
I think we're going to say a squared plus b plus c squared.
Okay, so a, I love it. A squared plus c squared.
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, a squared plus c squared, and then? Okay, so it's going to be minus 2ac, and then it's going to be the cos of the angle that's opposite the original b. So it's going to be cos of b. So that is what the cos rule says about that. What if I said to you, c squared equals? So using the cos rule now, I've changed the focus instead to be on c. So c squared equals, what is the cos rule going to say about the rest of this side? No worries, Nontokozo. It was lovely to have you popping on the line. So if I said to you, using the cos rule, c squared equals, what is the rest of the side going to look like? And I just want to plug my phone in so that it doesn't run out of thing while we do that. Okay. So we know that you have to use the side that we're not kind of getting by itself. So it's going to go a squared plus b squared minus 2. Now, again, we're only going to be using these two sides. So minus 2, so times a times b, which basically is just like that. And then what is the angle that's opposite the side we want to know? It's just going to be the cos of angle C. Now, that is a bit tougher. So just give me a thumbs up if you feel like you've got that. Give me a thumbs down if you're still a little bit, what is this man doing with all his subscripts and stuff like that? Okay, so you get the basic idea. Okay, awesome. So if you are a bit lost, what I encourage you to do is just rewatch this video a little bit later. And also throughout the lesson today, you'll pick up more of it as we go. All right, over to you guys. I want you to find me QR. So I'm giving you that question. You are going to find me QR, and I'm happy for you to go straight to the final answer if you want. There's nothing wrong with writing QR squared equals etc. and then getting QR. But if you feel comfortable, I'm also happy for you to go straight to the final answer. And basically it just means you including the square root. Okay, over to you guys. Let's do this. So think about what do you need to write first. There's the sort of Pythagoras-y bit. And then there's the sort of the extra bit after that. So 13 squared plus 4 squared minus 2. And that's why I put them in a bracket. 13 times 4 times the cos of 70. And then we would have to get QR. Now I actually have the answer prepared. So let me see if I can just bring that out for you. Yes, I can. Oh, look at that. Bring it down. So the final answer should be 12.2 or 12.22 if it's to 2 decimal places. Okay. Now, hopefully you're getting more and more comfortable with this idea of a cos rule, and it's a tool that you're adding to your toolkit. So take a screenshot now if you need to, otherwise I'm going to move on to another example. Okay, let's do a multiple choice question. So you are given the following triangle, and you have to find the option that matches the information using the cos rule. So think about if you had to start with this one, you have different choices. It's probably not going to be A because you've never put the A as a subject. So I'd probably start with an x squared. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, which of these options? Okay, and I see a lot of you are going for C. Do I agree with you? Well, there's my 7 squared and my 12 squared, which are these guys, minus 2 times 7 times 12 times the cos of 51. Yes. So C is indeed the correct option. Awesome. I think that was pretty well done. So let's move along. You are flying indeed. Do this one for me quickly. So I want you to find out AC, and I'm going to give you 60 seconds because you are getting more familiar with this tool now. And now it's about putting the steps together. Can you get what AC is? I see I haven't actually written an answer for this one down. That's not the right answer, but anyway, it's fine. What is AC going to be? So you should be getting 60.52 if you round off to 2 decimal places. Now, one of the things as I'm doing this myself on a calculator is I think it's quite dangerous to do the square root step and all this extra working out in one step. So be careful. I personally think the safest way to do this is to basically write out this step. Okay. And then on your calculator, hit equals and get that value in memory. You don't always have to write down this intermediate step, but don't try and do everything in one step because you probably make a silly mistake. So make sure you do that step where you go square root and then whatever the answer was from the first bit. Okay, so we get 60.52 units is going to be the answer. Are there any questions, guys? Or if you have, raise your hand or pop them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm assuming that we are getting used to this. And so let me give you a little bit of a trickier one, because I feel like you've earned it. Let's do this one, yeah. So the only thing you need to bear in mind is that the square root here extends over the whole bracket. Now, in this scenario, you are given a triangle, but it's turned to the side, and you need to use the law of cosines to find the correct option for b, little b. So they're focusing your attention on that side. So let's see what you can do. Which is the correct option for the length of little b? Aha, I like it. This is a good one. I like it. There's lots of variety in the chat, which means we know the students are going to be debating and learning, and I like it. So just to see what I would do, I would start by writing down what is b squared equal to. Now, first of all, I have two sides and an included angle. Now, which angle is the included angle? So I was thinking I would write down 9 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 9 times 7 times the cos of the angle in between, which is the cos of 100. And the reason I chose the cos of 100 is I needed to use the angle between the two known sides. Aha. So then, in order to get b by itself, I would then have to square root all of the stuff above. But then the problem is I don't have 9s and 7s in my options. So I think I need to find out what that is altogether. And I also need to find out what that is altogether. Now, does that affect our options? I think it does, everyone. So let's see what the vote says now. Oh, it's changed. Lots of people are saying B all of a sudden. Well, 9 squared plus 7 squared is 130. And 2 times 9 times 7 is 126. So is there an option like that? Square root 130 minus 126 cos 100? Yes. So the correct option would be option B. The other thing to watch out for, everyone. Okay, Daneo's asked the question, why did I use 100? Okay, so when we use the cos rule, if we are focusing on the length of one side, then the other side of the equation is going to be using the two other sides and the angle in between those two other sides. And so the reason I didn't use the 34 is it wasn't between the two sides I was going to use in my calculation. It wasn't the included angle. So the cos rule always works by saying, okay, I want to find this side. Now I write this side in terms of the other sides and the angle between those other sides. Does that help a little bit, Daneo? The idea that you choose one side that's on the left and then the other bits are on the right. Okay. All right. What I want to do now is I want everyone to turn their cameras on and I want to see some stretching, because we know that a good stretch will help us be productive. So I'm going to stand up because I'm human too, and my brain is feeling like it needs a break. I'm sure yours does too. And just show us your favorite stretch. Right now, I feel like my calves need a good stretch. Ew, that feels good. And Level, if you could just let us know who is giving their best stretch. Oh, that feels fantastic. Sheesh. You see, guys, sitting too much isn't a good thing. We have to make sure we
Sin Tokoso, Lutando. Yeah. Come on, guys, join us in the stretch.
Think of
Give
it
your
as
body a break.
think of it as an
Lex is doing a
investment.
great job.
Come on, there we go. Oh, I feel much more human now. Come on. Give me a thumbs up if that felt good in the chat. Give me a thumbs up if that felt good. I feel fantastic. Okay.
And David.
You see. Okay. Let's do a little brain break, but a different type of brain break. I try to find something a bit different. So I want to warn you, in this brain break, it starts off looking very normal and then it gets a bit exciting. And at the end, I want to know what is 11 squared, but it's not 11 squared in the normal sense. It's 11 squared in the context of this pattern. And so take a moment to look at it. In the context of this pattern, what is 11 squared going to be? You're sort of on the right track, Loretta, sort of. I'll give you one tip. 4 squared is 16 normally. 4 squared is 16 normally. And 7 squared is 49 normally. Now look at the pattern. And all of the digits on the right-hand side are they're only one digit. They're only showing the unit digit. So what is 11 squared normally? It's going to be 121. But like if we look at that, that's 6. This is 9. And so the final one is just going to be 1, according to this pattern. Because basically what it's saying is it's saying square a number, and then what is the value of the number in the unit place? Okay, so 7 squared is 49. What's the tens are 4? The units are 9. 11 squared. What's the value of the thing in the unit place? It's 1. Okay, so I don't want to. I'll maybe next time go back to our normal ones, but I just saw this on the internet and I thought, it's something a little different for you guys, and you will enjoy it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that, but let's return to what we were doing. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Rachel. Yeah, I thought I'd find something a little different. Let us go back and let us look at a different type of question, which is going to make our brains think a little bit. So I want you to take 60 seconds to just read the question before you even start doing this question. So take 60 seconds, and once you've read through it slowly, I want you then to think about which of the 4 options do you think is correct? And then I want you to put what you think is correct in the actual chat. So at the moment, the triangle is here, and you're given various things. Which of these options reflects the use of the cos rule correctly? And I want you to just think through it and think about what in a cos rule, what are we always looking for? What is the basic structure we're looking for? And then which one is by itself? Which one is together? Okay. So whenever we use the cos rule, the angle is kind of important. It kind of tells us where everything is in relationship. So I want to point to the 44 and say, the 44 could be important for telling us about relationships. So just think about that. So in cos rule land, we normally look for two sides and the included angle to help us find a third side. But this is a good question. It's really taking it up a little bit. Why don't you start by trying to write out what you think would be a correct one? Okay. I see a couple of people. I want everyone to, even if you have to guess, I want everyone to try and make a choice. And then let's go from there. So I want to say that it feels to me like the 11 is the thing that should be standing by itself. Now, the reason I say that is the 11 is the side that's opposite the angle. And so if I was writing this out, I would write it out as 11 squared equals 9 squared plus x squared. And I'm not done there. Minus 2 times 9 times x times the cos of 44. Now, why have I done it like that? Well, basically, the side that stands by itself is always opposite the angle in the cos rule. And we're so used to looking at the two sides next to it. This is just a different way of looking at it. So most people seem to have said B. Let's see if I agree with you. So x squared and 9 squared and x squared, that is the same. So all good there. Minus 2, 9x, that's all good. Cos 44, yes. So the correct option is B. Okay. So a really important thing is just to get oriented with the cos rule when you write it a different way around. Give a thumbs up if you feel okay about this one now. Give a thumbs down if you still feel lost. I think if you look at it for a bit, it does get clearer. Okay, Monique, yes. Non-Claire, fantastic. Barbara, awesome. Okay, well, let's keep on going then. How about I think you can do this one. That's too easy. Let's go for something with a little bit more. Okay. We're going to start to mix some of these two things together. So this is an old exam question. And you'll notice that question A asks you for the area of the triangle. So you have to think back, what is the area rule? And then the second bit is calculate the length of YZ. So I want everyone to try and do these two questions. And if you weren't here before, let me know in the chat if you've never heard of the area rule. And maybe we can give you a little bit of a hint. But for now, I'd like deliberately everyone to think back. What is the area rule say? Okay, so Nolo, the area rule, if you haven't heard of the area rule allows you to find the area of any triangle if you've got two sides and an included angle. Okay, so Rachel, you guys are going to need a little bit of, revision. Okay, I'll give you this tip. The area rule just says a half times the length of one side times the length of a side next to it times the sine of the angle in between those two sides. So it's it's different to the cos rule. And the reason I was putting it in is because this is a standard class, I want to start reminding you of some of the older stuff. So that's the area rule. The cos rule is what we've been doing so far. And for the cos rule, we would probably say we'd start with yz squared, and we'd go from there. Whereas the area rule would have this structure. It will be in video 2, Rachel. And so I would recommend looking at that. Okay, so the first part, a half, 8 times 10 times the sine of 79. So that's for the area rule to find the area of the triangle. But I also want to know what yz is. And so now these questions are starting to look more like exam questions. So the cos rule says 8 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 8 times 10 times the cos of 79. But you still need to find yz for me. So I'm going to give you a little bit more time, but just to notice how there's some parts that are the same in the area rule, and there's some parts that are different. And I just want you to start getting used to seeing them both together. So 0.5 times sine of 79. So you should get, for the area of the triangle, 39.27 centimeters squared. And then for the, well, let's get yz squared first, and then we'll get what the length of yz is. So for this, I'm getting 133.470, blah, 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 blah. But I'm just going to hit my square root answer key. And we should be getting, I'll give you a moment or two more. What are we going to get for the length of yz? So we're going to get 11.55 units. Okay, so that's basically saying that this length over here is 11.55. Yes. So while we're just talking about this, if we compare the two rules, the area rule involves a trig ratio of sine. It also needs two sides and the included angle. And it also has this extra half in front. So when I think about the area rule, they both, the sine rule, both the cos rule and the area rule need two sides and an included angle. But when I write them out, they look a bit different. The cos rule definitely looks more like Pythagoras with all its squares and stuff like that. And you're quite right, Abnecho, it shouldn't be unit squared. It should just be, it should be centimeters like that. Thank you so much. Okay, are there any questions, everyone? Otherwise, raise your hand. Otherwise, I will move on and take a screenshot if you need to. I'm going to move on to a combination. Actually, you know what? Let's go back and do a simple one again, and then we'll come back and do a slightly harder one. So take a screenshot if you need to. And let's just make sure we get the cos rule in our brains. So I want you to find for me Km. So find for me the value of Km. Then once I'm happy that you still know how to use the cos rule, I will go to like a mixed up one. But let's just check you can still find Km. What do we get? So this is decimals in, so we have to be a little bit careful. So that's km squared. Now what is km going to be? Yes, so you should be getting a 14. And you should be getting a 14.17 meters in this case. Now, I want to, now that you've just used the cos rule and you know how to do it, I want to just quickly check. If I asked you, what is the area of this triangle? So now I'm suddenly changing the question. I'm going rogue teacher mode and going, let's see if I remember the last question. How would you find the area of this triangle over here? And I want you to see, can you think back to the last question? What's the rule for finding the area of this triangle? And then I want you to put the answer in the chat for me. I'm making it unpredictable here. I'm making things up as we go. So first of all, we need to think, what is the area rule? And we start with, and the area rule is fantastic because it works for any triangle. So it's a half, but we need two sides and the included angle. So we've got that. That's the good news. So half times 6.2 times 14.8 times the sine of the angle in between those two, which should be you are going to get 43.63 meters squared. And so what I want to point out in this section is, as we get to the second part of the lessons, we're going to start to mix these rules together. And that's really where the next level of learning is going to come from. It's going to go, can I mix the various rules that I've learned about and use them together? So again, are there any questions? You want to raise your hand or ask a question? Otherwise, I'm going to squeeze in one more today. But you're doing well, guys. Like, I'm impressed because I'm really starting to mix things up now. But I do want to be aware that sometimes there may be a question. And so you can raise your hand. Okay. If everyone's good, then I'm going to find you one more one to just, let's find something. Let's not go with that one. Let's go with this one. Okay. In the previous lesson, okay, so now again, you've done incredibly well today. I'm deliberately pushing you at the end because I want to extend you. But if you've understood the cos rule and how to find sides from today, you have done exceptionally well. And I don't want you to be overwhelmed by this next question. But in this question, our goal is to find the length of AB. However, in order to find the length of AB, you are not just going to use the cos rule. You will use the cos rule initially, but then you may need to use the sine rule along the way in order to help you get AB. So that's what I'm going to say to you. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to try, well, see if you can get there by yourself, and then I'll start giving some hints about how to get there. And then we're going to finish with this one because this is a proper, we're mixing it up now. So we're trying to find AB. And I want you to think about what would be a good step to start with if you're trying to find AB. In fact, who wants to tell me actually in the chat? Someone can tell me in the chat or put their hands up. What's the first step we have to do in this question? It's like Musa. Yes. Musa, what do you think we should do?
Hello, sir. I'm
Hello.
going to separate the triangles to work on one. We're going to work on triangle CBD because it has all the things needed to do the cos rule.
Perfect. So what you did was you looked at the two triangles and went, I actually have to start where the information is, and you've spotted all those. What did you try to find out?
BD, sir.
Perfect. Exactly. So why don't we, everyone, put BD in the chat and see what we get and see if we can agree on what BD is. And then we'll go to the class for some guidance on the next step. Maybe someone else can give us a hint. Thank you, Musa. That was fantastic. To think about, how do we find BD and what would it look like? So I suppose I'd start, if it's two sides in the included angle, I'd start with BD squared. And then I'd start with one of the sides. So, oh, they're the same. So let's see what we get for BD. Okay, so if we're rounding off to two decimal places, we should get 3.99 for this length over here. Okay, now, if we've got 3.99, then I want to know what is the next step, because remember, we're going on a journey. We're like Frodo in the Lord of the Rings. I don't know if that, if you guys watch Lord of the Rings, but anyway, we're going on a journey and we're trying to get to AB, and we've got another side. But in order to use the cos rule, what do I really wish I had, guys? What do I really wish I had? What would make my life so much better? Who can tell me? Who can pop on the line? Or what would be awesome to have? And then I know I could find AB. It's almost like something is just in the wrong place or something. I don't know.
Mr. S, we have Younger attempting to answer.
Yeah, let's. Younger, what do you wish we had?
I think we have to get the angle of AD.
Yeah, ADB. If we have that, we're golden, right? Like we can use the cos rule.
Yes.
Okay, now I don't think we can get that, but I do think we can get that one. And the thing is, I know that all triangles add up to 180. So I'm going to suggest, can you use the sine rule to find me that angle? And because of time, I'm going to give you a bit of a hint. I think I can write the sine of B over 6 is equal to something else. Younger, you're a star. Now, those who haven't, the sine rule was lessons 3 and 4 in the series. But if you think about it, the sine of beta over 6 must be equal to the sine of 45 over 3.99. So basically it's these two pairs. So who can find me what the size of angle B is? I'll wait a little bit of time. And this is taking us back to the previous lessons. For those who weren't here, I would highly recommend going to look at those lessons. And if you're feeling a bit stressed out now, just ignore it, because obviously you weren't here in the lesson. You shouldn't feel stressed out about it. So what are we going to get for angle B? Who would like to so we multiply both sides by 6, and now we need to use the inverse sine function. So see how we are going to get AB, but in order to get AB, we're going on a little journey, and we need to basically work out a few things along the way. Okay, so let's try. If I go, let's get the value 6 times the sine of 45 divided by 3.99, and I get 1.06. Then I go, oh, you're right, there is an error in this. Aha. Okay, guys, apologies. So it turns out okay, let me explain why there's an error. So the sine of beta, if you plug that into your calculator, you are getting 1.06. And it turns out is what that's saying is that this triangle is actually not possible. So the sine values only go between -1 and 1. If a sine value is outside 1, then basically it's not possible. So actually what this is saying is that the drawing is not physically possible. Now, it wasn't my intention to do it. What I was hoping would happen, so let me explain where I was going with this, and then we'll finish the lesson. I was hoping that we could get an angle for B like, say, 60 degrees. If B was 60 degrees, then I would know, because all these three have to add up to 180, this would be 75. If I know that that's 75, I can then use the cos rule to figure out, basically use the 6, use the 3.99, and use the 75 between. But because the angle B was not possible, obviously the question was set up in a faulty way. And so we're just going to leave it at that point. But I just want to see from a vote, do you understand how I would have done it if I could have got 75? So just give me a thumbs up. If you imagine that I could get the angle D, the red one that I was looking for, if I got that, I would then be able to find AB. Okay, and so that's what I was trying to do there. Okay, so what I'm going to do there is I'm going to call an end to the lesson, because I was really pushing it up a notch at the end, because I wanted to give you guys something different for the standard class. In the last 2 lessons of the series, we are going to do mixed questions where we mix the rules together. But for tonight, I think really all I wanted to check was, can you use the cos rule? And so if you can do questions like, if you can do questions like basically this one that we were doing, that was the only goal for tonight.